if you think hashtags are going to make or break you, I think you're focusing on the wrong thing. Right, Chelsea? So
yeah,
the one
absolutely.
the one way that you can kind of please these, I don't want to say please, but at the end of the day, the reason that you're
the algorithm gods.
Yes.
Hey everyone, welcome to the S.O.B Marketing Podcast, where we celebrate the S.O.B that you are. And if you haven't figured it out yet, we mean small-owned business. We don't mean S.O.B.
Listen, we know that as a small business owner, you are working hard on the daily to keep your business fully operational while trying to promote it. And while some days it may feel like the business is owning you, if we're being honest with each other, I bet you would admit that you wouldn't give up the insanity for anything.
Our commitment here at the S.O.B Marketing Podcast is to give you the real talk, what works when it comes to advertising, marketing, promoting your business, and then what doesn't really work.
And Chelsea and I promise to always keep the conversation real. Welcome back to another episode of the S.O.B Marketing Podcast. S.O.B as in small-owned business, not son of a biscuit. I'm here with my beautiful sister, Chelsea. For those of you that are new tuning into us, Chelsea and I are 15 years apart. We are sisters. We are both marketing professionals, and we have teamed up to launch this podcast where we are bringing you all of the tips, tricks, discussions, and strategies around marketing that hopefully will help inspire you guys and also help you grow your business here in 2024. So Chelsea, tell us, what exactly are we talking about today?
Well, Vivian, I'm so excited for today's topic. We are talking about hashtags. And before we get started, I want to say shout out to Amy Premu over at Premu's Pearls. I'm so sorry if I'm saying that wrong, but she actually requested this conversation and this topic. So hopefully we'll answer all of her questions. But yeah, today we're talking about hashtags. Are they still relevant? Do they still work? As small business owners, what are we supposed to be doing when it comes to hashtags? And this is a lot has happened over the years with hashtags, and it's definitely something that's still constantly changing. So a lot of research went into this episode.
Yeah, and let's also just friendly reminder to everybody out there, just because Chelsea and I are in this day to day, like we do marketing for a living, and it doesn't change the fact that stuff changes so quickly. And so that means we're hoping that a lot of the videos and the information that we share with you guys over at the Seasoned Marketer or at this podcast, the S.O.B Marketing Podcast, is going to lend itself and help to keep you updated, because we're already doing the heavy lifting and we're doing the research out there. Because as you said, over the years, it's changed and there is no consistent answer as far as like what exactly is going on with hashtags, how many hashtags do you need, and how they're working these days. And so today, if anything, we're hoping that what you guys take away from it is that as small business owners, maybe there's going to be a little more clarity to the way these social media platforms are using hashtags right here in 2024, and maybe some good tips as far as moving forward, what you can be doing to, just ensure that your content that you're putting out there is getting seen.
Exactly, Vivian. And I'm so glad that you brought up how these platforms are using hashtags, because if we look back at the history of hashtags, they used to be super important, right? Like when social media was first starting out, Facebook, Meta's algorithm wasn't as comprehensive and good, for lack of a better word, than it is now. So hashtags were super important because it helped the algorithm clearly understand the content that you were creating, and it helped the algorithm find the right people who are looking for content like what you're putting out there, right? But now Meta's algorithm and all of these platforms' algorithms are so good at crawling their platforms that hashtags aren't necessarily as important as they used to be. Now, I will say our point for this episode is not don't use hashtags. It's you can use them, but be really smart about how you use them. We're not saying they're obsolete. They're definitely not as important as they used to be.
Well, and also let's not negate the fact that as consumers or as users of Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, we've changed. We've changed.
Yeah.
We're on there and we're consuming content differently. And so I think what I would love to have in this discussion, Chelsea, is also have a before and after of how consumers and how we as people are using these platforms, because I think it helps the small business owner on the back end understand, well, if the people are using it differently, it means that I have to use hashtags differently because they're not going on there and searching for things the way they used to. So, okay, to your point, let's start the discussion there. So basically, my understanding from what you just said is, and it's a very good point, back in the day when everyone was using social media and they were building out these algorithms, it was hashtags were a way for a small business owner to categorize the content that they were putting out there. So basically, the idea was, if I am a makeup artist, okay, and I uploaded tips for how to remove your makeup at night, then by using, I would select hashtags that I think people were going into Instagram for and using to find content that was related to this, correct?
Yes, exactly.
And so what you're saying now is because the algorithms and because Meta has gotten so good, and YouTube and all the other ones, even LinkedIn, let's not forget LinkedIn, because LinkedIn uses hashtags too. Now they've gotten so good at crawling and being able to categorize the video content, the posts themselves, that consumers are no longer, because think about it, the last time you opened up your Instagram account, how many of you went in there and actually searched by a hashtag? Nobody, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So I think it's definitely gotten a lot better with that. So I think now, Chelsea, what would you say is one of the things that you recommend people do with hashtags now?
Okay, Vivian, before I go into my tip, I want to explain a little more how we're going to be thinking about hashtags in this conversation, okay?
Okay.
So I'm going to be talking about hashtags in the terms like keywords. They're not the same thing, but they're the same concept. So there are long-tailed keywords and there are short-tailed keywords or head terms. So head terms are going to be vague, open keywords. So think if we're talking about jewelry, it would be fine jewelry. That's a head term because it's broad.
Sure.
A long-tailed keyword is when you get more specific. So you're trying to narrow down and niche down your keyword. So let's think, what's an example for fine jewelry?
Maybe like 14 karat gold, like you're adding a descriptor in there, right?
Yes, exactly. So you're adding a descriptor, you're making it more niche, more narrowed down, right? So that's exactly what you want to do with keywords. Hashtags. That's what I meant. That's exactly what you want to do with hashtags.
So Chelsea, I'm a very visual person. In my head, I have to have some type of picture of what is going on. So the way you just explained these long tail and short tail keywords are, to me, I see a funnel. And the top of the funnel that's very broad is going to be the short tail, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so that's like the umbrella of the term. And then the bottom of that funnel, where it's very narrow, is going to be your long tail keyword. And so basically, that's where you're saying hashtags are now similar to that. In what sense?
In the sense that using a head term, using a short tailed keyword, so a short tailed hashtag, isn't going to help you anymore. It's too broad. It's too vague. Think of it. Let me give an example from our perspective. We share a lot of tips for content marketing, right?
Mhm.
I cannot use the hashtag content marketing. Too many people use it. It's too vague. Our content is not going to be seen.
Mhm.
I can use the hashtag content marketing for small businesses or small business content marketing because that narrows down the audience that we're looking for. Less people are using that hashtag, and therefore we're more likely to be visible when someone looks up something related to that hashtag.
Right. And you know
Mm-hmm.
what's interesting about this too is I think a lot of times when we're talking about hashtags, we're so used to industry terms. And so this is what's interesting to me. You'll see a lot of marketers who are sharing marketing content using hashtags that are related to marketing. But the thing is, like you just said, if our target audience is a small business owner, they aren't necessarily going on there and hashtagging content marketing to look for something. Right?
Exactly.
So, yeah. And so I do want to add this to it. I think, when over the years there's been this transition too of, like you just said, the algorithms have gotten so good. And so I think the one thing we want you to take away and to remember is the old school hashtags, or the way we thought hashtags would help us grow our social media accounts, isn't necessarily true to form anymore because people are utilizing it differently. So what I like to think about is back in the day, you know, Chelsea, you were a big library girl. You would go to the library all the time. So back in the day, we used to use hashtags to tell people, or to tell the algorithm. It wasn't so much for the people, it was for the algorithm to tell them, hey, this video right here is related to this content. Like, I want you to categorize it in this way, right? So let's say, what do you call it? Historical biography. Okay, that's something that in a library there's a section for historical biography. But nowadays what you're doing is, because the algorithm has gotten so good with the use of AI, because y'all, I'm about to tell you something that's going to blow your mind. When you upload a reel, when you upload a YouTube short nowadays, they are using AI to see what keywords you're using within the first couple of seconds of that video to help it categorize the video so that it can show it to the type of people that would want to view that content. Okay, so it's gotten to that point where the hashtags are no longer to tell the algorithm what you are, but nowadays it's more so like you're using it as a kind of like as fuel to be sure that it's getting put in a section where the type of people that like those types of books, quote unquote, are going to find it. Do you love making crafts and working on your small business but struggle to get them in front of customers? Do craft fairs, events, or pop-ups leave you feeling overwhelmed or frustrated? Introducing Rock Your Fair, the course designed to help you succeed in the world of craft fairs, pop-ups, and events, created by two marketing professionals with over 15 years of experience. Rock Your Fair is perfect for anyone who's new to the game or just wants to step up their game. Our step-by-step approach will guide you through everything you need to know, from choosing the right events, to setting up your booth, to marketing your products effectively. And you know what? You'll also get access to us for personalized coaching and feedback so you can put your best foot forward. Do not let craft fairs, pop-ups, and events hold you back. Sign up for Rock Your Fair today and start rocking your way to success. For a limited time, get access to our free mini course. Simply head over to our website at www.theseasonedmarketer.com and click on workshops. All right, so Chelsea, if now we're supposed to be thinking of hashtags similar to keywords like we do in search engine optimization, and you just went through and explained the difference between, you know, just kind of using a broad hashtag and why that won't work and why you want to get more granular with it. Are you of the mindset then that hashtags are still appropriate? Like, do we still have a purpose for them?
That is a really good question. Let me tell you, when I was doing research for this episode, there are two groups of people, okay? There are people who are vehemently against hashtags, right? They're like, it doesn't work. It makes you look corny. Don't do it. And then there are the people who say these people are wrong and that it can still help you if you do it right. I believe that hashtags do still help. I believe they don't help as much as they used to. And if you're not doing them right, they can hurt you more than they can help you. But it's not something that you want to completely write off, right?
Yeah. And so I guess the other discussion point with that, you know, that's one of the questions that always pops up. There's that, you know, debate. They work, they don't work. Then there's also the debate, how many do you use? Then there's also the debate, where do you post them? So let's go to where do you post them? Are we still telling people to post them in the actual caption, or should they go in a comment under the caption?
So I want to start this conversation by saying TikTok is still very new, so we don't have a lot of research on what works and what doesn't on TikTok. So for TikTok, we're not really going to give any pointers for TikTok besides you want to use 2 to 5 hashtags. So besides that, we don't really have enough data to give you a yes or no answer. Overall, everyone does not yet have enough data to say this or this does not work.
And so the consensus with TikTok is just use 3 to 5 hashtags.
Yeah, that's all that we have right now. For Instagram, it's really dealer's choice. And Instagram has actually come out and said that as well. They said, you know, it's as effective if you put them in the comments or put them in the captions. Just remember, if you're going to put it in the comments, you have to put that comment like as soon as you post what you're going to post, right? You want to make sure that you do it immediately. I personally, this is my personal opinion, but I personally prefer to put them in the caption because let's say no one comments on your post. And so someone's going through your post and they see there's one comment and then they click on it and the only thing they see is your hashtags. Like, that's really weird to me. But that's a personal opinion. Again, personal opinion. I just think it looks cleaner when it's in the caption as opposed to the comments. Yeah. Also for Instagram, the suggestion is 3 to 5 hashtags, which, can I say, great example of how things change, because when I had graduated 2019, the consensus was up to 10 hashtags. 7 to 10 hashtags was the sweet number for Instagram. Now, Instagram allows you to add up to 30 hashtags. I don't know why, but it used to be only add 7 to 10. Now it's only add 3 to 5.
Interesting. And see, when I had been researching stuff, because every once in a while you want to be sure that you're up to date on this, there was I can't remember if it was Later, you know, the scheduling app that lets you pre-schedule stuff for Instagram and Facebook. So I can't remember if it was that or the other one is Planoly or something like that. So there are 2 apps. One of them actually I came across a video where they had researched, I want to say like maybe 30,000 accounts or something like that, because they have that data. And what they found, they said, according to their data, was that even though you could post up to 30 hashtags, they found that the people that posted 20 got the most like views or engagement from there. But so it's interesting because, like you just said, there's conflicting data though. There's some data that says only do 3 to 5. And I'll be honest, when I look, I think the proof is in the pudding. So when I look at accounts that have close to 100,000 followers on like Instagram and I click on their stuff, they typically have about 3 to 5 hashtags, probably maybe sometimes 5 to 7 hashtags that they're using in the captions. And so it just kind of makes you wonder, like, you know, which is it? Like, is it the 20 or is it the 5 to 7? Obviously, the people that are, you know, have the higher following count, they're doing something right to get views on the content that they're sharing.
Yeah. I have, you know, I really wonder, when was that article written?
The video, I'll have to go back and pull it, but I think it was pretty recent.
Okay. So that's one thing I'm interested in. Two, I do want to say that a lot of our data can sometimes be skewed or conflicted, because now it's interesting that you're saying 20, because my conflict with this is that a lot of these big influencers, these big famous people, don't add hashtags at all because they don't have to. They already have a name, right?
Yes.
But that data still goes into all the research that we're doing, so that's going to skew the numbers, right? So I think it's really interesting that it said 20. Another thing, when it comes to hashtags, and part of the reason why you don't want to add that many is because Instagram is cracking down on spam. Yeah. So the more hashtags you add, the more spammy you're going to look. And so that's going to ding you. So that's really interesting that they said 20.
Well, and also to your point, you alluded to this a little earlier, but maybe you can insert a clip right here of what 𝘨𝘂𝘳𝘬𝘕 said recently on Instagram, very specifically to hashtags. He basically was saying they're not that important. He said it himself, like, it's not affecting the algorithm the way that you think it is.
Okay, so really quick, in the video we're talking about, 𝘨𝘂𝘳𝘬𝘕 is answering the question, how many hashtags do I need to add to my posts? Basically what he said was, posts that have hashtags do not do better than posts that do not have hashtags. He did say, though, that hashtags are still good practice as long as you're doing it right. So only add hashtags that are relevant to what you're talking about. Don't add too many because you're going to look spammy, that sort of thing.
So if the head person at Instagram is telling you, like, hey, we're not using it to predetermine who gets, you know, to see this stuff. Plus, I think, too, let's also talk about if there's a mindset shift with thinking, and trust us, because we're also trying to grow a social media not following, but, you know, we want to utilize social media to reach more small business owners and to provide them marketing information. What's interesting is, if you think hashtags are going to make or break you, I think you're focusing on the wrong thing. Right, Chelsea? So like the one way that you can kind of please these, I don't want to say please, but at the end of the day, the reason that you're
the algorithm gods,
yes. At the end of the day, the reason you're on there is to try to find your people, the people that your product or service can help. And really, the way you put your videos together, how you show up, the information you're providing, that's the way that you do it, right? That's the special sauce. It's not hashtags. Hashtags can help you, I guess, get in front of people, but it's not. If 𝘨𝘂𝘳𝘬𝘕's already told us, no, that's not the way to do it. Well,
yeah, exactly. I will say, okay, he said that's not how we use hashtags. It's not going to help you that much. I don't think you shouldn't do it. I think if you add, again, 3 to 5 hashtags and you're really smart about the hashtags you're using, it's not going to hurt you, right? Now, if you're adding 20 to 30 hashtags and you're using broad, vague hashtags, then it will hurt you. And then please don't do that, right? Like, don't do that. I will say another thing that a lot of people might not know about Instagram actually has some banned hashtags because they consider it spammy.
And so what are,
They have
give us an example.
list. Okay, like hashtag always or hashtag adulting. Like those, it's just too vague. It doesn't mean anything, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're banned. So if you use those hashtags, they're not going to show your content to people. Actually, in the description for this video, I'm going to link to a website I found with a complete list of all of the banned hashtags. Y'all, I don't expect you to look through all of these. Like, there's too many. There's like thousands, okay? The point is, don't be vague, don't be spammy, be very conscious. I said that right. Be very smart about the type of hashtags you're using.
Is it conscious or cognizant? I think it's cognizant.
Look, man, I can use whatever word I want. Another thing I want to say is when you are being very specific about the hashtags that you're using, try to find hashtags that have 10 to 200K posts. So that way you know that people are looking for content related to that hashtag, but it's not oversaturated, right? So you still have the ability to actually show up when people are searching for that type of content.
Gotcha. So I guess the other part of it is the one thing we haven't really touched on too is that there is this other way to utilize hashtags where if you're running social media campaigns, you can actually incorporate them into a marketing campaign that you're doing, right? So let's say, for example, that you're a company and Tyson chicken nuggets. Remember, they had done a very particular, was it a heart chicken nugget or something like that?
It was, I thought it was like a bouquet of chicken nuggets.
Yeah, but they had, I think they were doing a campaign for like, you could win a bouquet of chicken nuggets or something. And then if you made your bouquet, it was a contest of chicken nuggets, you took a picture of it, and then you used a hashtag that they told you to use. Whoever won with the best quote unquote bouquet would actually get free chicken nuggets for like a year or something like that. So you could utilize hashtags in a way where you're actually tracking or asking people to submit photos or submit a video, whatever else, to kind of just generate some buzz around what you're wanting.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's a great example of hashtags are absolutely not obsolete. Like if you use them, even if you just create a hashtag so that your consumers can share their thoughts or upload a picture, that's great. You know, that hashtag is going to take people to content specifically about your small business, right? So hashtags can be utilized in a very smart way. I want to say though, going back to being very specific about the hashtags you use, you also need to know what the hashtag is really about and is you using the hashtag appropriate, right?
Right.
Vivian, did you hear about the DiGiorno pizza hashtag why I stayed debacle?
No.
Girl. Okay. So on Twitter, there was a trending hashtag. It was hashtag why I stayed. It was about domestic violence.
I was going to say, it sounds like something domestic violence related.
Yes, it was domestic violence and women explaining why they stayed so long with their abusers. It's really hard in that scenario to get away from your abuser. There's a lot of things stopping people from getting away. And so the entire hashtag was about, I'm not laughing at the hashtag. I'm laughing because I know what DiGiorno did, okay? The entire hashtag was about domestic violence. Okay. DiGiorno Pizza tweeted, hashtag why I stayed. You had pizza.
So but were they asking people to use that hashtag or no?
No, they weren't asking people to use the hashtag, but they used the hashtag saying, oh, like, they didn't realize the hashtag was about domestic violence. They thought it was just like, oh, why I stayed with you or something like that. So they said you had pizza. There was such, it was so bad. The backlash was so bad, which appropriately so, because you basically, I don't want to say they made fun of anyone, but like they took a very serious hashtag and kind of made it a joke. And it was a huge PR thing. It went really poorly.
Well, and I wonder too what goes through someone's mind, because now I will say I am of that age group where sometimes I just think we think it's funny to just put a hashtag in front of everything, because like nowadays it's our way of making fun of like where we're at in these times. Like, you know, sometimes I'll be talking and I'm like, hashtag over it or hashtag this and that. And it's my way of being like cheeky about the fact that like now we use the term hashtag in something, and back in the day we never even knew what a hashtag was. It served no purpose. Mm-hmm. So maybe somebody just was
real
like,
quick, I'm sorry, real quick. The other day Tim was on the phone with an automated like system, and he was in the back room, and he came out into the living room and he was like, hey, is the hashtag the pound or the star?
It's the pound sign.
It's the pound.
It's the number sign. The number.
Sorry. It's the number sign. Yeah. I'm sorry.
But so I wonder why somebody didn't like stop to think, because the other part of it too is like, before you typically will publish something like that, if you're going to use a hashtag, you do typically search it first to be like, what else pops up for this? Because otherwise, you know, there's some scandalous stuff online these days. You can't just be hashtagging everything because you don't know what phrases certain communities or people use for stuff. So, word to the wise, if you're listening to this, if you go to put a hashtag in a tweet or in any part of your caption, just be sure that you look it up before you include it so that you know what pops up, because your content's going to pop up right beside it.
Yeah, exactly. Or not necessarily, just looking at the way your hashtag looks. So like maybe you know that it says this, but if someone does not know your content and they're looking at it, does it say what you wanted to say, or does it say something else, right?
Yeah, because sometimes when you put all the words together in the spelling, it spells something else. Right? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't remember a very specific example. I just know that this happens all the time with the word anal.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So just look at the hashtag as well.
That's funny.
Also, really quick, I want to give my recommendations that I did research. These are the overall views on what works on Facebook and Twitter. I'm not saying X, I'm sorry. It's Twitter. So for Facebook, it is recommended that you use up to 3 hashtags. And for Facebook specifically, you don't want to put them at the end of your caption, but you want to try to incorporate them into your actual sentences. So, for example, if I'm posting something about content marketing, like, oh, here are content ideas for May, I would put, here are hashtag content ideas for May. Now, obviously, I'm not going to do that because that's too vague. But that's just the example that I'm giving. You want to put it in a sentence. They also want to stress that if your hashtag is more than 1 word, you do not want to split up the words. I'm guessing this was mentioned a lot because Facebook does have an older demographic. And so maybe the people who are using hashtags don't know to make it 1 word. But I found this a very interesting point because I thought everyone knew that.
Yeah, well, and yeah, because if you're doing like, let's say hashtag small business week, and you're just doing hashtag small space business space week, and then you're typing something else out, it doesn't, like, the system doesn't know that that should be 1 phrase, right?
Oh, 1 phrase.
It just, instead of just hashtag small. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But again, like I I thought that, but you know what? That goes on me for assuming that people know things. You never know.
That's right.
So that was brought up a lot when it came to Facebook and hashtags. Now for Twitter, they recommend only 1 to 2 hashtags. Again, kind of like Facebook, you want to include it in the sentence. You don't necessarily have to, though. You can add it at the end. Twitter is kind of like Instagram in the sense that like it's not as important as it used to be. It can just be like a helpful little boost, right?
Mm-hmm. It definitely goes to show that every platform, and we tell you guys, the thing is like we're kind of done with the days where you can just dabble in all the platforms. I think you have to prioritize and decide which ones are going to be your main ones to focus on. And this just goes to show, because every one of them, you know, is a tad different. Like Chelsea said, for TikTok, they're saying they don't have enough data, you know, to be able to tell you if hashtags are preferred, what, in the comments or in the captions. Yeah. And so if there is no hard and fast rule for all the platforms, then you do need to be able to narrow down, so that way you could be a student of at least 1 or 2 of them, right? And get them built up to really drive more people to your website, your, you know, services, whatever that is. But I do think it's fascinating that nowadays the conversation needs to be a little different. So, you know, just a reminder, what we're mainly telling you is hashtags are not going to drive the amount of views that you think they're going to, or the amount of views that they used to. So back in the day, because the algorithms were different, it was an opportunity where you could get a lot of eyeballs from the hashtags. But in more recent years, Instagram has flat out told us hashtags aren't, you know, all that important sometimes. If you're looking for somewhere to focus your attention, focus it on the content, on the actual information that you're sharing and how you're showing up, but utilize the hashtags as a amplifier for that.
Absolutely. And like you're saying, focus on the content, focus on the keyword that you want Instagram to focus on, and make sure that you're mentioning that at the beginning of your videos. Because like Vivian said earlier, Instagram Meta, they're crawling your videos, and that first few seconds, they take whatever keyword they can find, and that's how they distribute your content. So make sure you're getting to the point and your keywords, what you want to focus on, are very visible.
Awesome. Well, Chelsea, I think this was a good discussion to show that there are no absolutes in social media.
Yeah.
And y'all, we're just going to tell you right now, it's going to continue to change. And so we're hoping that maybe this discussion gave you some context for the conversation and for how you want to start approaching hashtags with a new updated mindset that really does fit what these algorithms and what these social media platforms are doing. But just know, if you go online, you're going to be confused, because in one article, you're going to read that you should use 20 hashtags. And in the next article, you're going to read that you should use 3 to 5 hashtags. And you know, they're each quote unquote quoting their own data. And I'm sure, like Chelsea said, depending on what the metrics or the parameters are for that data, they're probably not lying. It's just a matter of what they're actually looking at.
Exactly. So we're hoping this kind of gave you a little bit of clarity. If you guys have any topics that you want us to discuss, like this was a listener's pick, this is something that you guys wanted to hear, great. I'm glad we had this conversation. I hope it helped. If you have any other topics you want us to talk about, email us at help@theseasonedmarketer.com or Chelsea at theseasonedmarketer.com. We want to hear it. You can send us a DM, whatever works best for you. Just let us know what you want to hear, because we're here to help you guys. Make sure that you like, follow, subscribe, leave a 5-star review, all of that stuff. It's really helpful. And, if you feel like one of your friends, one of your fellow small business owners could really benefit from this conversation, maybe they're the ones that are using 25 hashtags in a post, then go ahead and send them this video, send them this episode, and go be the best SOB that you can be.